Of course, sir, I know a lot of it. I was there, after all, for some of the most outstanding, for some of the most singular incidents. But there's still a very great deal I don't understand. I can't seem somehow to piece the thing together. There are moments when I think I'm going to come close, but then it all slips away. Like a dream, sir, or like snow in the sunshine.
Mr. Marvel, you are speaking to a man who possesses considerable sympathy for that view. I have myself made a special study of the case, yet I would prefer to acquire a little additional information from you, my last eyewitness, before I permit myself to reach my conclusions.
Naturally, sir. As I've said, sir, I'd be happy to help. More than happy, in fact, for the two of us to pool our resources.
Then that's capital.
At least, as I intimated earlier, if you were of a mind to make it worth my while.
Oh, well, I should have insulted you had I thought of suggesting anything else. Now, will this suffice?
Most generous, sir. Most generous indeed. Thank you. I'm obliged to you.
My pleasure.
Now, why don't you start, sir? Tell me what you know about what happened in Iping and afterwards. And then, sir, when it's time, sir, I'll give you my own account.
A first-rate suggestion. The stranger came early in February, one wintry day, through a biting wind and a driving snow, the last snowfall of the year. Over the down, walking from Bramblehurst railway station, and carrying a little black portmanteau in his thickly gloved hand. He was wrapped from head to foot, and the brim of his soft felt hat hid every inch of his face, save for the shiny pink tip of his nose. The snow had piled itself against his shoulders and chest, and he staggered into the coach and horses like a thing more dead than alive.
Well, why do you all stare at me so? Who is the landlord here? Which of you is he?
I, sir, am the landlady of the Coach and Horses. And I'm quite sure there's no need for you to take that tone. No. What can I do for you today, sir?
A room, madam, I beg you. In the name of human charity, give me a room and give me a fire.
Charity, sir? Now what exactly do you mean by that?
I meant it only as a figure of speech. Here, these should be enough for a week or so.
Thank you, sir. Yes, that'll certainly make for a very good start.
Pray, inform me when my credit runs out. In the meantime, show me to my room, please. I've suffered a good deal, and I must rest.
Of course, sir. Now, might we have a name, please? For the records, you understand, for my books.
My name is not important.
I see, sir. Well, just as you please. Now then, do come this way.
Who is it?
It's Millie, sir. Mrs. Hall's help.
What do you want?
I was told, sir, as to inquire about your luncheon.
Excellent. Excellent. Then you had better come in.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Millie. Now, please, won't you come here? Stand in front of me. Let me take a look at you.
Yes, sir, if you like.
How old are you, Millie? How old are you exactly?
I'm 17, sir.
I see. And your parents, where are they?
Both dead, sir?
Indeed. That is a tragedy.
I was very young, sir. Truth be told, I can hardly recall their faces at all now.
Ah, and do you have a beau, Millie? A man to whom you have gifted your heart?
No, sir. No one. not yet.
Now, that I find really most surprising. After all, someone as pretty as you deserves a playmate.
No, sir, I only wanted us to ask about your luncheon. When would you like it, sir?
Straight away, Millie. At the earliest possible opportunity, for I am weary and I am in distress. Certain recent events, you understand, have not been kind to me.
Yes, sir. And how about your fire? Is all quite in order?
Quite, thank you. The heat is, at long last, reaching my bones.
That's good, sir.
I have some important luggage, Millie, waiting for me at the railway station. How soon until it can be fetched?
Not until tomorrow now, sir. It's a steep road and the snow's getting worse. Wouldn't be safe, sir.
I see. Then tomorrow shall have to suffice.
I'll ask Mrs. Hall to make the arrangements, sir. Old Mr. Fearinside will fetch them for you.
Good. Run along now, little Millie, unless there is anything else.
I only wondered, sir, and I don't mean to pry, why you're dressed as you are. Was it an accident? It must have been something powerful, terrible to leave you all shrouded like you are. But forgive me, sir. I've gone too far.
Not at all, dear Millie. If ever you do so, I shall inform you at once. But the answer to your question is that it was indeed a kind of accident which has rendered me as I am today. The strangest, the most curious accident in all of human history. And a thing which may yet, mark my words, change the very course of the future.
Mrs. Hall, I came as soon as I heard.
Heard what?
Why, about the stranger. The muffled stranger in our midst, all bound about with bandages.
Word travels fast in Iping, don't it? Don't take long for the gossips to circle.
No, Mrs. Hall. You know full well that I'm nothing of the kind. It's only your well-being I'm concerned about.
Oh?
Your safety here, alone. A widow in charge of a place like this.
Well, I'm very grateful, I'm sure, Mr. Henfrey. But I've seen off far worse in my days than that short-tempered spook. I've spoken to our Millie, and it seems that it's all the result of an accident. I dare say he's in a good deal of pain and just wants privacy in order to recuperate. That said, the clock in his parlour does need attending to. The hour hand won't do nothing but point at 6. And since you've always had a knack with complicated mechanisms...
Mrs. Hall, it would be my pleasure. And I don't mind admitting a certain amount of curiosity myself.
Oh?
Of the usual sort, you understand? Of the most harmless variety.
I thought you wouldn't mind the interruption, sir. It's only that Mr. Henfrey has come to fix the clock.
Very well, whatever is necessary. Though he should complete his task as quickly as possible.
Of course I will, sir. No problem at all.
Oh, he's very quick, sir. He's nimble, but he's thorough with it.
Then let him do what must be done.
On you go, Teddy.
Very good, ma'am. Right.
I take it your lunch was acceptable, sir?
Most welcome, Mrs. Hall, thank you. I should perhaps explain my reason for coming here to this place, to Iping, to the Coach and Horses.
I'm sure there's no need, sir, for you to say anything you don't want to say.
On the contrary, I forgot myself earlier. I was cold, I was fatigued, and I fear that I rather let my manners slide.
Not at all, sir. Don't mention it, sir.
Nonetheless, to explain, I am an experimental investigator. My purpose in being here now is a desire for solitude. I do not wish to be disturbed in my work. And as for my accident, of which I fancy you will already have heard through that tender young bloom named Millie, it necessitates in me a certain retirement. My eyes, you understand, my eyes are oftentimes so weak and so painful that I have to shut myself up in the dark for hours at a time.
The dark, sir?
Like a mole then, are you, sir? Like a little furry bat?
Oh,
Indeed, Mr. Humphrey. At times, the entry of a stranger into my room is a source of excruciating annoyance to me. Mrs. Hall, pray forgive my candour, but it is as well that these things should from the first be understood.
I'm sure that won't be a problem, sir. We're understanding people round here. We're tolerant. We're welcoming folk. Isn't that so, Teddy?
Certainly is.
I expect my supper at 6, Mrs. Hall, and I want Millie to bring it to me.
Those things can be arranged, sir, of course.
You'll let me know when my money has been used up?
Of course, sir. Straight away.
Then I'm so glad we have an understanding. I would ask you both to leave me now, for we have said all that has to be said between us.
Just give me a moment with the clock, sir. It's more of a job than I thought.
Mr. Henfrey, you succeeded in remedying that mechanism more than 3 minutes ago. I appreciate that to individuals such as yourselves I represent a fabulous figure, but I shall not be stared at. You understand me? Nor shall I be an object of idle scrutiny. Am I in this matter fully understood?
Yes, sir. Of course you are.
Good afternoon then, sir. Enjoy your own company now, won't you?
Well, I trust that satisfied your curiosity.
In point of fact, Mrs. Hall, I think it's rummer than ever.
Oh.
Is it a disguise, you think? All them bandages? I mean, we only have his word about this accident.
Teddy, you theorise away. I don't doubt there'll be plenty in the village who'll join you in it if that's your idea of sport.
I just mean to keep an open mind.
Well, that's your business. Me? I'm going to ask no more questions, but only take his money.
Fair dues.
Although, there is one thing.
What's that then?
Millie. I'm not going to let Millie be alone with him again.
Another, sir? Recharge a glass for you.
You're too kind, Mr. Marvel.
So it sounds to me, sir, that they none of them in Iping had even started to guess at the truth of it.
The facts were there for those who had the wit to see them. But these were, after all, as you know for yourself, Mr. Marvel, the very simplest of people.
But even the simple folk have instincts, sir. Often I find in a more developed degree than their educated counterparts.
Your point, Mr. Marvel, is of course a just one. And instinct certainly proved a factor in a different way when, on the next morning, the stranger's luggage finally arrived.
Can you see what they are, Teddy?
Boxes, so far as I can make out. Trunks, glass bottles, and a set of 3 great red books. Oh, these our bandaged friend is greeting like a miser with his money. You sure you won't take a look for yourself?
Like I say, it's no business of mine.
He's making no fair inside work for his fee. Taking each box out himself and making no offer at all to help him.
Well, you could help yourself, Teddy, instead of simply goggling out the window.
Now, why would I want to go out there into the cold with a stranger waiting when there's so much more pleasant company with me and you?
Stop it, Teddy. Folks will hear.
No, here's a to-do. Fearenside's dog's with him. It's leapt out the cart and it's, oh, saints alive, it's really gone for our guest. But watch out, he's coming this way.
Mrs. Hall, your man needs to learn to keep that animal of his under control.
Oh, dear, sir. Yes, we did hear the commotion.
Oh, did old Fearenside's dog make a lunge for you then, sir? Oh, but he's a skittish beast, I've always said so.
Mercifully, the creature only tore my trouser leg and not my skin.
Oh.
Still, the experience was an unpleasant one. I shall now retire to my rooms, have my boxes brought to me forthwith, and summon Millie to fetch me some restorative brew.
Oh, but it's Millie's day off, sir. I can bring you something, though, whatever you need. And on the house, as an apology for the incident with the dog.
I see. Well, no matter. I think I shall be quite all right. If I want anything more, I shall ask you. Am I understood?
Oh, we understand, sir.
We understand perfectly.
All that afternoon, once his luggage had been delivered to his room, the stranger worked with the door locked and for the most part in silence. He was thought to be writing in those great red books, but once there was a concussion and a sound of bottles ringing together as though the table had been hit. And there was a smash of glass, a rapid pacing athwart the room. And then, overheard by Mrs. Hall as she passed through the corridor beyond, this mysterious soliloquy.
No, I can't go on. I can't go on. 300,000, 400,000, the huge multitude cheated. All my life it may take me. Patience. Patience indeed. Fools and liars, and all is darkness now. Darkness rising.
Oh, that man. He's not well, and I can't help but think about the dog. On years of rabies even now, and I'll have no one dying of a dog bite in my premises, thank you very much. Do you know, I've got a mind to call in Dr. Cuss.
Fearnside thinks he's a black man.
What are you jabbering about now, Teddy?
I'm only repeating what old Fearnside said. He stopped in for a snifter, you see, after the last of the cases was taken upstairs. And he says that after the dog had torn through the trouser leg, he saw where the stranger's shin ought to have been, only blackness underneath.
Oh, but his nose, Teddy. Think about his nose. The tip of it's pink. We've all seen it.
Well, that's what me and old Fearnside was theorising about. We wondered...
Oh.
And don't you scoff now, woman. Oh. We was wondering if our visitor, if he's somehow piebald.
Oh, right, that's it. I've had enough. I've decided. I'm calling in the doctor.
I still do not quite understand why you have been so insistent about seeing me, Dr. Cuss. It was but the merest scratch which happened now more than 1 week ago, and I am, as you can see, quite well.
You'll forgive me for saying so, my man, but you seem there to have the beginnings of a cold. I'd be careful to stay in the warm if I was you. Make sure the thing runs its course.
Oh, really? I do trust I shan't be expected to pay for such inestimable professional advice.
Of course not. This visit is wholly gratis.
That is as well. Already my funds diminish.
Besides, I should add that this is at least as much a social call as it is a medical one.
But, Doctor, I have no wish to socialize with you.
Right. Well, I have heard, sir, that you describe yourself as an experimental investigator. Having dabbled in a rather amateur way myself in that direction, I thought we might profitably share our findings. This is, you understand, an isolated spot. One meets here so very few men of science.
Oh, Dr. Cuss, you will discover soon enough that we have nothing at all in common. Why, I am as removed from you as is man from the lowest of the monkeys.
I see, sir, from your unnecessary tone that I'm taking too onerous a toll upon your time, and that I'm no longer welcome. In which case, I shall bid you good day. Although, before we part, might we not do so as gentlemen? Come now, sir, will you not shake my hand?
Yes. Oh, yes. Very well, then. I shall do as you ask. Come, let us shake hands, Dr. Cuss. Like gentlemen.
No! No! Good God! No! Let me in, Reverend. Please, let me in. Cuss, my dear fellow, whatever is the matter? Why, you really do look thoroughly distraught. Shrive me, Reverend. Oh, dear, a very old-fashioned request. Now, I fear that's rather a Catholic concept.
No, you don't understand. I've seen the devil's work tonight.
There you go. I do find that whiskey is generally the answer in these situations. Whiskey, that is, of course, and prayer. Now, go on. You're telling me about the stranger. You had just asked to shake his hand?
Oh, Reverend, the subtle horror of it. After he'd spoken, he drew off his thick gloves, and underneath...
Yes?
Underneath, I saw nothing. Nothing at all. Only darkness and shadow.
Oh, really? Well, no doubt the poor fellow's lost a limb in some fashion. Does not the leading rumour point to an accident, some grisly mistake? And so, naturally enough, he simply fixes a glove to his sleeve in order to pass through the world unmolested, to look as other men look.
No. No, there is more to it than that. For a second later, although I saw nothing at all in front of me, I felt something exactly like a finger and a thumb nip at my nose.
Nip, you say? Nip at your nose?
That's right. And I was so startled that I lashed out. And then, although there was nothing there, I felt as if I'd hit an arm. Or rather the ghost of an arm.
Well, that is extraordinary. Yes, it is truly extraordinary. And do you know, despite the relative earliness of the hour, I think I might just join you in a glass myself.
I do believe he'd already started to unravel, even then. He was just clinging to sanity, weren't he? But his grip, it weren't firm.
Ah, but the incident with Cuss was one mistake amongst many. One, I fancy, that a less passionate man might not have been so inclined to have made. But the real error took place a week later, when his credit at the Coach and Horses had started to run dry.
The burglary at the vicarage.
The burglary at the vicarage. In this matter, such facts as we have them come from the medium of the vicar, Mr. Bunting. Bunting, it seems, woke suddenly just before the dawn with the strong impression that the door of his bedroom had been opened and closed. He sat up in bed, listened, and then he heard quite distinctly the pad, pad, pad of bare feet walking along the passageway.
Who's there? Who goes there, I say?
No answer came. He rose, put on his dressing gown, and went out onto the landing. From somewhere below him, he heard quite distinctly a sneeze.
Ah, so that's the game, is it? Lord, grant me strength and resolution.
The vicar returned to his room, armed himself with a poker, and descended the staircase as noiselessly as he could. He saw the study doorway yawn open, although he was certain that he had closed it before bed. From within, something snapped, a drawer pulled out, and there was a rustle of papers. Then a match was struck, and the study was flooded with yellow light. Through the crack of the door, Bunting could see the open drawer and a candle burning on the desk. But of any robber there was no sign. Finally he heard the clink of money. Evidently the thief had discovered the housekeeping reserve of gold, £2.10 in half-sovereigns. This trespass was too much for the vicar, who charged then into the room.
Put that money down, sir. I am armed, with righteousness as well as with this poker.
But there was nobody there. Then Bunting felt something almost like a draught of air brush past him. Then there were footsteps, and the sound of bolts being drawn back. The padre dashed out into the corridor just in time to see the front door open and close as if of its own volition. He ran forward, opened up, and peered out into the early light of dawn. Nothing whatsoever was to be seen.
Dear God, dear merciful God, defend us.
Meanwhile, in the Coach and Horses, the threads were starting to be pulled together.
Mrs. Hall. Mrs. Hall, wake up now.
What is it?
It's the stranger. He's moving about, I'd swear it. He left the house in the night. I heard him. And now he's come back.
Off it. He pays enough to have the run of the place. Now, never you mind. Oh, I was having the sweetest dream.
I'm going to investigate.
Oh, don't be foolish.
No! I've had enough of this ghoul in our midst. I'm going upstairs.
Oh, calm down then. Dear me. I'd better go with you. Make sure you don't get yourself into any trouble.
Up the stairs they went, then the landlady and her maid. Timorously, they entered the stranger's room. And what do you think they saw there?
I don't very well know, sir, but I've a mind you're about to tell me.
The visitor's clothes, all laid out upon the bed, and all of his bandages unspooled.
So where is he? That's what I like to know. Where is the blighter?
Perhaps he's gone for a constitutional.
At this time of day. Seems unlikely, don't it? No, something's not right here. Don't tell me you don't sense it, Mrs. Hall. I know you've seen it from the first.
Rare enough you're right about anything, Teddy. But on this one occasion, you might just be. Still, let's leave the room for now. I don't know. Maybe he's done a flip. Maybe we won't ever see him again.
And so they left the room, and they closed the door behind them. No sooner, however, had they done so, than they heard from within a terrific noise, as of some furniture being dragged across the floor.
Did you?
I did.
Brave Teddy Henfrey went first, the woman in his wake. He was about to knock, but he had only just raised his fist against the wood when the door was opened once again.
Oh!
Before them stood that startling figure whom they had come in recent weeks to know so well.
I would ask you both to stay away from my chambers and to keep your noses out of my business. My work is at a critical stage, and it shall not be interrupted by people such as you.
Oh, that's as may be, sir. But where exactly have you just sprung from? We was both of us in your room not more than a moment ago.
And all we saw there was bandages and gloves.
Your meddling will bring you despair. Now, both of you, disperse.
I shan't be spoken to like that, sir. Not in my own establishment.
Mrs. Hall, Mr. Henfrey, might I cordially invite you to the following suggestion? Go to the devil and go hang!
After that, for several days, an uneasy truce endured. The stranger kept to his room, the blinds down and the door shut, busying himself, it was imagined, with his peculiar work. At times, sounds of violence were heard, an outburst of curses, a tearing of paper, a smashing of bottles. And so things went on, until at last the money ran out completely.
Mrs. Hall? Mrs. Hall?
Yes, sir?
Ah, there you are. Ah, Millie too.
Sir?
And what do you want?
I want to know why my breakfast was not laid. I want to know why my meals have not been prepared for the past 20 hours. And I want to know why you have yet to answer my bell. Still, I see that you are a busy woman. Why not just send Millie with me now in order to rectify these trifling concerns?
No one will be rectifying anything, sir. Leastways, not until you pay your bills in full.
My sovereigns have run out, then?
They have, sir. As I warned you they would.
No matter, I have more. Here, take them.
Goodness me, Mrs. Hall. You was right.
No, sir. That looks to me very like £2.10 in half sovereigns. And if I'm not much mistaken, our vicar was robbed of that precise amount only a week ago. Millie, fetch help. Constable Jaffers, if you can find him. Magistrate Shuckleforth, too. Scare up whoever you can.
Yes, ma'am. Straight away, ma'am.
Oh, Millie, no, don't go.
Bye-bye, sir.
Don't you worry now. She'll be back soon enough, with a few friends. We'd like you to explain yourself. We think there's been a deal too many strange events in these parts in recent times. And it seems to me that you've been right at the heart of all of them. So then, would you do me the courtesy of a full explanation? Or do we need to wait for the arrival of the law?
She were a brave woman, that Mrs. Hall. A rare breed.
She possessed a certain rustic courage, yes.
I saw her once myself. She had a fine figure.
You may keep such gutter thoughts to yourself, Mr. Marvel. I am interested here today only in the unfolding of fact.
See yourself.
Though you are right as to the lady's fortitude, still, I wonder if she would have been quite so bold had she known the true nature of her adversary.
Stop!
Excuse me, sir? Whoever do you think you're addressing?
You don't understand who I am or what I am, but I'll show you. Yes, by heaven, I will show you.
Just at the moment these words were spoken, Millie returned to the coach and horses with a constable by her side.
Mrs. Hall, I'm back. Oh my God!
Sir, Constable Jaffers here. Now, what exactly seems to be the trouble, sir?
Ignoring this interruption, the stranger reached to his head and pulled at his pink nose.
Here. Do you see now? Do you finally begin to understand?
He stepped forward and handed Mrs. Hall something which she, agog, accepted automatically. Then, when she saw what it was, she gasped, dropped it, and staggered back.
Oh, God! Oh, God!
The stranger's nose, pink and shining, rolled onto the floor. Then the stranger removed his spectacles, took off his soft felt hat, and tore wildly at his bandages. Mrs. Hall, who had been prepared for anything, for scars, for disfigurement, for tangible horrors, was now confronted by nothing. Nothing at all, but a solid, gesticulating figure without a head.
What are you, sir? What are you?
I, Mrs. Hall, am the future of mankind.
Well, that's as may be, sir, but I'd ask you to stay where you are, as I mean to place you under arrest. Mrs. Hall, Millie, grab him.
You fools! You may as well try to hold Mercury himself.
Then the commotion began in earnest. Millie's screams attracted from the cellar where he had been hard at work with the barrels Mr. Teddy Henfrey.
What the devil's going on here?
He's a slippery one, sir. Get him. Grab him.
Piece by piece, the stranger was divesting himself of his clothes. And as he did so, he disappeared incrementally into nothing. At the sight of it, Millie screamed again, as for the first time did Mrs. Hall.
Devil! Devil!
The two male villagers swore loudly as the visitor seemed to diminish before them, ducking around the furniture, yelping and cackling at the pursuit. Outside, idlers, attracted by the sound of the commotion, made haste to the inn, and before long, the whole village, and Dr. Cuss, and the Reverend Bunting, old Fearnside and Chuckleforth the magistrate, Sandy Wadgers the blacksmith, Gibbons the naturalist, Toothsome the sexton, Phipps the Unitarian, and all those rustic dandies and smart wenches, those smocked elders and aproned girls, all of them poured into the tavern. What a babel was heard there, what a melee! And somehow, among the chaos, as if from thin air, the visitors' mocking tones could still be heard.
Insects, worms, infinitesimal creatures, none of you will ever be worthy of trapping me. Me, the Invisible Man.
And so, in all the confusion, he simply slipped away. Oh, there was a good deal of scrapes and abrasions that day, but the damage was wrought chiefly by villager upon villager. The Invisible Man himself escaped. Naked, of course, but unscathed. The next time he appears in any official record, Mr. Marvel, is, I believe, when he came for the first time into your purview.
So you want me to tell you how I met him?
I do, sir. But pray, take your time. Be sure to tell me everything and in the proper order.
Now, at the time when the Invisible Man first entered my life, I was not then quite as you see now. Not the prosperous publican with an inn of my own that I am today. I wasn't a gentleman of means or property, but I was a gentleman all the same, albeit one of the road. The kerfuffle in Iping was still wholly unknown to me, and I was a little groggy from the previous night's indulgence, sitting with my feet in a ditch by the roadside, examining a pair of boots which had been abandoned on the verge, when I heard from behind me a voice.
I think those boots will be a trifle roomy for you, but I'll warrant they'll do a fine job all the same of keeping out the damp.
Well, you know, I've worn worse in my time. They're battered, and they've been cast aside, but a man in my condition can't afford to be overly fastidious now. Wouldn't you agree, sir? I had by this time turned around, but I could see nothing at all before me except for the open road. Sir? Where the devil are you, sir?
I'm standing before you, man. Inches from your face.
Bless me, sir, but I can't see you. Is this some manner of visitation? Or is it more likely, I suppose, is it the drink?
It is neither. Come now, what's your name?
I'm Thomas Marvel, sir.
Well then, Mr. Marvel, use the plentiful evidence of your senses. You hear a voice, but you do not see he who is speaking. You are aware of a presence, yet the land around you affords no possible hiding place. You feel my fingers upon your shoulder.
No!
You feel them tousling your enviable thatch of hair.
No! No!
And you feel my hand, Mr. Marvel, also at your throat. Do you not admit to the truth of all these things?
I do. Of course I do.
Then what is your conclusion? What must I be?
You're invisible, sir, aren't you? You're an invisible man.
I am indeed. And I represent all that is possible in our race. I have experienced of late a little misfortune, and I require an assistant to restore me to my proper place in the world. Will you help me, Thomas Marvel? The rewards will be beyond imagining. I will raise you up. I will make you an accessory to a god.
You don't blame me, sir, I take it, for my decision?
Not at all. I have not come here today to judge you.
Now, I must be frank with you, sir. I had, I confess it, been drinking that morning more than I ought to have done. And although our conversation seemed to me to be at least half like a dream, I saw in it an opportunity to better myself. So I took it, sir. I seized it.
My dear Mr. Marvel, no further explanation is required or expected. I dare say that had I been in your position, I should not have done anything so very different myself.
Very well then, sir. I accept your offer. Indeed, it'll be a privilege to act as factotum to the world's first invisible man.
Your choice shows unexpected wisdom, Thomas Marvel. Now, listen carefully. Ours is vital work, and this is what I would have you do for me.
What a deuced odd collection. Can you make head nor tail of it? I fear that most of it's beyond me. Still, at least much of our recent strangeness is now explained. Your burglary included. Indeed, indeed.
Afternoon, gents.
Good afternoon. God bless. I really would be most obliged if you could close the door, sir. The day is rather a chilly one.
Oh, no trouble at all, your worship. Mustn't let in a draught. I know how it troubles the older folk, so...
Mrs. Hall! Mrs. Hall! You've got a customer!
Thank you, sir. Though, truth be told, I'm in no hurry. I need to rest my aching feet as much as I have to wet my whistle. Mind if I join you, sirs, for a moment by the fire?
This is a private matter. I should prefer you to sit elsewhere. There is, after all, more than ample space.
Oh, but I meant nothing by it, sir. I'll just sit here and I'll cause no trouble to nobody. Of course, I don't blame you for being a bit nervous now around strangers. Not after everything which happened with your blessed invisible man.
Now, wherever did you hear that phrase?
Oh, I hope I didn't speak out of turn, sir. Well, I've walked the road from Aberdeen today, and there's only one thing in these parts which folk are speaking of, and, well, as I say, sir, that's Iping's invisible man.
It was to be expected, I suppose. People will talk, and the thing was, in its fashion, quite a spectacle.
It was real then, sir. Because there's many out there who are sceptical. I must admit, I have my doubts myself.
Well, then you can lay them to rest, sir. Our invisible man was, and is, absolutely real.
Is he now, sir? Is he really?
Indubitably. We both saw him. Or as much as such a creature as he can be seen. Look, here, these are his things. After he got away, you see, we examined the contents of his room.
Interesting, that is. Very interesting.
His clothes, his bandages, these mysterious bottles of his, the accoutrements of insanity, I have no doubt. But it's these which, as a scientific man, interest me the most.
Books, sir. 3 red books.
More than just books, I fancy. See? He has labelled them the process, and within...
Blimey, sir. Strike a light.
My own theory is that it's all written in some sort of code or cipher, quite beyond our comprehension. Although I wonder how much sense it made even to him. After all, these could well represent mere ravings.
On the contrary, you pitiful cleric. Those pages contain the most elaborate cryptogram that has ever been devised. They hold the secret of my condition.
He's here! He's come back!
Marvel, grab those books.
Of course. I did as I was ordered, and I took up those blooming books. I didn't see, I promise, I didn't see what came after that. Both the vicar and the doctor cried in pain as my master did his best to knock 'em out. But then, an unexpected thing. 2 figures emerged at the bar.
Welcome back, sir.
I do believe us we're ready for you now. My old pa's shotgun. Still, I reckon even an invisible man can bleed like any other.
Marvel, take the books and clothes and fly.
I don't know where you are, but I'll find you out, sir.
I needed, as you might imagine, no further encouragement at this to leave the wretched place. I grabbed the books, forgot the clothes, but I dashed all the same for the door. Behind me, the man at the bar fired again.
Too late, you've missed. And now I am upon you both.
Run, Teddy! Run! He's gone mad! Everyone! The invisible man's gone mad!
As I ran outside, I heard from within shouts and screams and another shot fired. Thankfully, this had the effect of masking my own dash from the scene, as all around me that little village stirred again into uproar. I passed a constable running not towards the ladies' screams, but away from them.
He's come back! The invisible man! He's come back for revenge!
And then the vicar, bleeding from the forehead, standing in the street and bellowing.
The devil walks among us! The devil is loose in Iping!
And all around me, doors were slammed and windows pulled. Everywhere there was a sound of closing shutters and of shooting bolts, and the only visible humanity was the occasional flitting eye under a raised eyebrow in the corner of a pane. And so I, Thomas Marvel, walked free of Iping with those 3 red books beneath my arms.
And that was the last that you ever saw of Iping?
It was, sir. And I'm sure you'll understand when I say I've never cared to go back there since.
And after the invisible man lost his temper so dramatically, where did you go then? You still had possession after all of those books.
I don't rightly know, sir. I suppose I wandered for a time, a little confused, without any particular destination in my mind.
But what had placed you in such a state? The impossibility of those phenomena which you had witnessed that day?
I dare say that's part of it, sir, yes. Well, that and the bottle I'd liberated on the way out the door at the Coach and Horses, so yes, I wandered over the downs. Went mow, a meadow, 9 men, 8 men, 7 men, 6 men, 5 men, 4 men, 3
Thomas
men,
Marvel?
What? Who's there?
You know who and what I am. Did you really mean to elude my gaze? Did you truly think that you could escape me?
No, sir. No. Of course not, sir.
Then why did you flee to this benighted place?
Only to get away from Iping, sir. To make sure your property was safe.
Yes, I see you have the books. Now take good care of them, for they contain the secrets of the universe. The key to invisibility, and oh, so much more than that besides.
How are you, sir? I was worried when the shooting started.
Yes, so worried that you fled the scene with a bottle of liquor clasped in your meaty hands.
But I couldn't bear it, sir. I couldn't bear to watch.
Well, thank you for asking after my health. I am, in fact, quite well, refreshed, and reminded of my purpose. I dare say that Iping shall not forget me. I must have smashed every window in the village before I was done with them.
And you've eaten, sir, I think, haven't you? Bread and cheese.
How can you?
Well, I can see it, sir. It's dim outline, floating in front of me.
Fascinating. Yes, it can't quite yet have been assimilated into my system.
So then, sir, where do we go now?
Burdock, Mr. Marvel, by way of Port Stowe.
And what will we do once we're there?
First, we shall raise some necessary funds. We shall enrich ourselves. Then we rest and we grow strong. And after that, I have in mind a certain house to visit and a certain old acquaintance to renew. So, look lively.
Ow!
We've a long walk ahead of us.
Ow! What did you do that for, sir? Why did you hit me?
Why, only to remind you that whatever happens, you shall never be free of me.
Yet you stayed with him.
I'd no choice, sir. Not really. A man like that, who could be anywhere at any time, he'd murder you while you slept, and you'd never know the first thing about it.
Such thoughts have occurred to me. More often, perhaps, than you'd imagine.
Was that so, sir?
Just go on, Mr. Marvel. Continue with your story. The whole truth of this matter will become clear in time.
We arrived the next morning in the town of Port Stowe, and there, as my master had promised, we set about relieving the populace of their valuables. My life, it may shock you to hear, has not been altogether an honest one. There have been times when I've had little choice but to speed, personally, the transference of wealth from one stratum of society to another. But it had never been easier than it was with him. I'd walk into a shop or a house or a restaurant and I'd distract the owner while my master would simply help himself to their money. It floated out behind us and soon after into my pocket. By the end of the morning we were almost wealthy, but we were still exhausted men. We took a moment to rest upon a bench in the spring sunshine before we started the business of finding lodgings. As we enjoyed our rest, an elderly mariner came to sit beside us.
Mind if I join you, my boy?
I've no objection.
Pleasant day, isn't it? Very seasonable weather for the time of the year.
Yes? It is.
And a fine set of books you've got there.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking after them for a friend.
Oh, but there's some extraordinary things in books.
I believe there are.
And there's some extraordinary things out of them.
Yes.
There's some extraordinary things in newspapers, too. In this one, for example, there's a story in here about an invisible man.
No, is there? Whatever will they be writing about next?
Iping's the place he started at, it seems. And where he came from, nobody don't seem to know. Here it is. Peculiar story from Iping. And it says here in this paper that the evidence is extraordinarily strong.
Lord.
But then it is an extraordinary story. There's a clergyman and a medical gent who saw him all right and proper. Or leastways, who didn't see him. He was staying, it says, at the Coach and Horses, and no one don't seem to have been aware of his misfortune till the bandages on his head was torn off.
Well, that is remarkable. But look, he didn't have any pals, did he? Tell me it don't say he had any howls.
Ain't one of a sort enough for you? No, thank heaven he didn't. Still, it makes me regular uncomfortable, the bare thought of that chap running around the country. Just think of the things he might do. Suppose he wants to rob. Well, who can prevent him, eh? He can trespass, he can burgle. He could walk through a cordon of policemen as easy as me or you could give the slip to a blind man.
Listen to me. You believe in this invisible man?
Well, it says so in the paper, don't it?
What if I were to tell you he is real? Ow! Stop it! Stop it, sir!
What's the matter? Who are you talking to?
Just a touch of lumbago, sir. Old bones and brittle joints. Still, I'd better be going. Better be on my way. Good day to you. Good day.
Good day to you.
I didn't mean anything by it, sir. I was only having some fun with him. Do you know anything about that, sir? Do you know anything about having fun?
And were you? Was that true? You were simply making sport of the situation?
Well, those were strange times, sir. Seems now almost like I imagined them. There was a feeling of power, sir, in being the servant of one who could move through the population unseen. And yet that sense was more and more outweighed by fear.
I see.
We pressed on after that, sir, from Port Stowe towards Burdock. We took our accommodation where we could, and we spent our money wisely. But matters between us grew frayed. He was never the stablest of gentlemen, and there was something in his condition which, bit by bit, was pushing him further into madness. The more he moved from the usual human experience, the more dangerous it seemed to me he became. And then one night, in a low lodging house, I awoke with the hands of the invisible man about my throat.
Wake up! Wake up, you traitor! You fool!
No, sir, please, sir. I'm no traitor, sir.
Not yet. But you will be in time, I know your kind.
I promise, sir, I won't betray you. I'm your friend.
Of friends I have no need. I require only servants.
Then I'll be your servant, sir. I'll be the best servant who ever lived.
Do you know, Mr. Marvel, how easy it would be for me to kill you now, or at any time of my choosing? The slightest pressure on your windpipe, and it would all be over.
I know that, sir. I do, but please, let me go.
You'll promise, then? You'll promise to serve me faithfully all your days?
I do, sir.
Then for now, Mr. Marvel, and only for now, I shall permit you to live. Should you ever so much as attempt to betray me, I will, you have my word, strike you down.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
You know, in your way, you are a brave man, Mr. Marvel. Many would not have stayed as long as you in the company of so dangerous a fellow.
Oh, little love for the man, sir. But somehow, there was something in him which made me wonder if I wasn't the one who was keeping him at least a little bit human. If it was me who was holding him back, if that makes any sense to you.
It does.
But that night, when he came so close to throttling me, well, that was too much, sir. And so the next day, when I was sure I'd heard him snoring, I crept away and I made for a place of safety. And I brought with me, by way of insurance, those 3 red books.
So where did you go? A police station? A church?
Funnily enough, sir, I made haste to an inn. The Jolly Cricketers, little outside of Burdock. Perhaps you know it.
As a matter of fact, I do.
Well now, sir, I somehow had a fancy you might.
And are you enjoying our country, sir? So far?
I like it just fine.
A bit different, I imagine, no, to what you're used to.
It's smaller, yeah. It's kind of dinky. Not enough space, I think, for mystery. And yeah, maybe that's what I miss. The great plains of Utah, in which all things are possible.
Oh, not enough mystery in our little island. Is that about the size of it? Well, have you heard about our invisible man? Hey, you heard about him?
I ain't heard anything of the sort, but if you'll pour me another whiskey, you can spill your guts to your heart's content. Quick! Quick! Bolt the doors, close the windows, he's after me! I thought I'd given him the slip. I thought he was asleep, but I can hear him. I can hear him on my heels. Hear who, sir? The Invisible Man! The Invisible Man is on his way!
Don't close that door, sir. It's not yours to shut.
Too late! Too late! It's already here.
Wait, who just opened that again?
What the devil?
Not possible. Not possible.
Please, sir, have mercy.
It's too late! Too late for you all. I am the Invisible Man, and I am now amongst you.
Please, you two, lock me up somewhere. A police cell, anywhere. Just keep me away from him.
No escape, Marvel, no escape for you. And once I've killed you, I shall take back my books.
Now, this may not be my country, but I don't care to hear threats of that sort. And I'm afraid it's just your bad luck today, Mr. Invisible Man, but I don't care to travel anywhere without a revolver, and I've got exceptional hearing.
And who are you? How dare you pit yourself against me?
Thank you kindly, sir. Now I know exactly where you're standing.
Oh!
A hit, sir.
Hey!
God bless you, sir, but you've hit him.
Blood! See there! Blood appearing from nothing on the floor!
Damn you! Damn you all!
Thank you. Oh, bless you, sirs. Bless you.
No need to thank me. I just did what any concerned citizen of the world would do.
What do you think he'll do now? You're Invisible Man.
I can't be sure, but I know he won't just hide away. What worries me more than anything
Yeah?
is that an invisible man who's been wounded, a man who's been backed into a corner like that, well, it might be we've only seen the start of how dangerous he can be.
And in that, Mr. Marvel, you were perceptive. I suppose the Invisible Man himself was so badly wounded that he fled the scene without any thought of those books of his.
I dare say you're right, sir. But come on, why don't you tell me what happened next? Because unless I am very much mistaken, it is at around now when you first entered the story.
On the evening when our story first impinged significantly upon my life, I was sitting before my own fire in my own house, enjoying a little light reading. It was a book, as I recall, that had to do with the likelihood of certain social conditions in the future. That topic is ever an engrossing one, although perhaps because of the heat. My eyelids had begun to grow heavy when... come in.
Sir?
Ah, Agatha.
You called for me, Dr. Kemp?
Yes, I did. Forgive me, Agatha, but I did.
You know how much I hate to interrupt your work.
Oh, I'm not working. I'm relaxing. Now, was it my imagination? Or did I hear the doorbell ring just a few minutes ago?
You did, sir. But there was nobody there when I opened up.
What do you mean by that?
Most likely it was children, sir. Local boys and girls. It's a game they like to play around here. They call it Knockdown Ginger.
Ah. Not a subject, I fear, about which I shall ever know a great deal. And you'll forgive the barrage of questions, but was that gunfire I heard upon the breeze? It sounded as though it were coming from the edges of town.
Shooting pheasants, most likely, sir.
At this time of year?
Though there have been the strangest stories lately, haven't there?
Have there now?
Yes. About this invisible man.
Ah, him.
Can it be real, sir, do you think?
Well, if it is, who's ever achieved it is a genius. One of the greatest geniuses, in fact, who ever lived.
I dare say you're right. Though why you'd ever want to do a thing like that's beyond me. Was there anything else, sir?
Not for now, Agatha, thank you. Though be sure to shut the door firmly behind you when you go. There's not a draught in here. Could have sworn I felt a distinct rush of cold air.
Yes, sir. I'll be sure to do that, sir.
A sweet girl. Sweet, but unobservant. For she failed to notice the presence of an invisible man dripping blood upon my carpet. You can step forward now. I know that you're there.
Clever of you, Camp. I knew that you, of all people, would see the truth of it. That you alone would appreciate my genius.
Come, please, sit by the fire. Warm yourself. I will bring food and drink. You must be tired, exhausted.
I am.
And you've been shot, I think. I can fetch the necessary medical equipment that's needed to repair you. But I have to know how it is that you have wrought this miraculous thing.
You know who I am, then, Cam. You recognize my voice.
Of course. But I've known long before this moment, from the very first time that I read in the press of the exploits of the Invisible Man, I simply knew that it had to be you. Oh, but I've been waiting for weeks for you to beat a path to my door. And so, Mr. Griffin, you are most welcome here. After all this time, it is a fine thing indeed to renew our old acquaintance.